Welcome to Night Shadows. I'm Stuart Best, where the paranormal is normal, where that which you thought you knew, you didn't, and where the future can be known if you know exactly where to look.
Well, good evening, everyone. I'm Stuart, and we have Larry on board tonight to do an update with us, and there's just a tremendous amount going on all over the place, some in the news and some not in the news. Hi, Larry. How you doing?
Hello, Stuart. Thanks for having me. Just a lot going on.
Yeah, sure is. First thing I'd like to do is request prayer for Darnett once again. She took a horrendous fall and is still not in the best of shape. And prayer always helps. So, again, we're asking everybody that's listening to offer up prayer to the Lord to help heal Darnett. This stuff is going on, by the way. A lot of people are taking nasty falls. Things are going wrong health-wise, and the Lord's people are under attack. And anyway, where do you want to start, Larry? Where do we go with this thing here? There's so much going on. Shall we start with the Trump wars?
Well, we can start. Just drop this and insert this one real quick in there. World Net Daily put a post that the Dale website reposted again today. They're saying urgent warning, army of demons on the loose, and saying that it seems like the demonic is just, there's been a surge in the demonic, and even a lot of really strange entities are being spotted around the world. They're just appearing, and strange things are happening to people, paranormal events, and lots of UFO activity. So I wanted to insert that after you had mentioned praying for Darnett, because a number of people contacted her that have also taken sudden falls that felt like they were pushed or maneuvered and fell. And this is apparently not a one-time thing. This is occurring different places.
Yeah, and there was a young boy who had a vision, did he not, about these fallen creatures, fallen angels. And of course, I don't think people realize that these entities have the power to shapeshift. And you'll find that back in the Book of Enoch. Some of the ancient writings where these entities could shape-shift, come in to take any form basically they want. But this is coming to the doorstep, and it's coming to the doorstep of the Christians as well. And it's an amazing thing. And I guess didn't Darnett have a situation where I guess you'd have to call him a Mothman almost that she ran into?
Yeah, in Broken Bow, Oklahoma, outside her mother's home, there she encountered a being of some kind suddenly that appeared as she had opened the door to her vehicle, and he had wings, and she described him on your show before, and you could certainly call him a very odd entity that appeared like a Mothman type individual that could fly.
Well, I know they are getting more and more video of these things, and I think an awful lot of people, of course, just think it's all made up, when in fact a lot of it is not made up. And I do remember the Hopi prophecy of ancient animals returning, which would, and Red Elk always talked about the Thunderbirds, that they were real. In fact, we had a report from a guy we knew, had a farm up north in Minnesota, and he had 2 Thunderbirds fly right over the house in the barn. And he estimated, because they were close to the silo when they flew over, that they had a wingspan of about 30 feet, maybe.
Wow,
so
that's
they
incredible.
Are there. Yeah, and whether they're maybe coming through from another dimension, or the veils, like Red Elk was saying, were thinning. And a lot of reports, as you know, in Wisconsin, from Bigfoot to Wolfman, that sort of thing. So, and you've had a lot of activity down there in Oklahoma, right?
Oh, absolutely, quite a bit, and it seems to be increasing. And the reports now are, I forward some of those on to you and Richard Shaw and others, and it's just a phenomenal increase in the activity of what's either called a UFO or a object of some type or a being or an entity. It's daily now. It's so much.
Well, here's a headline for everybody listening. Urgent warning. Army of demons on the loose. Longtime expert on spiritual warfare says a real danger is lurking. So this is something that's going to become normal, like I say on the show, where the paranormal actually is going to become very normal. We are entering into that phase of the last days of man's probation on earth. And remember the prayer in Isaiah, Larry, about let not the giants walk again or come again? Sounds to me like they have... Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say absolutely. I remember that in Isaiah. It's something about to the effect, let not the giants live again. And that was prayed then. And there was only one way that you would find that prayer after supposedly most of the giants have been destroyed was if they really were going, there a possibility of them occurring again. And we just had one in Afghanistan, that was killed by the military that was flown out, and a lot of data on that. And so apparently they do live again. Matter of fact, there was a quick report, and I know we wasn't going to get into this right now, but
my mind as well.
Yeah, Skywatch TV just posted that in 2012, and the report just now came public, they dug under the Giza Pyramid and uncovered a cavern of 24 giant caskets. And I posted a picture when I posted that article, and we're also hearing a lot more data and secrets being released from Antarctica, which apparently is going to fit right into the end-time scenario.
Well, they say now Putin's going to go down there. So now we've had Krill, we've had the Pope, we've had Kerry, we've had Clapper from the, NSA or the super intelligent guy, that doesn't seem to know anything when they interview him on Congress. But why are all these guys, Buzz Aldrin's another one, why are all these guys going down there? There's got to be something there. And then we had that report from a fellow on his deathbed. And I have a tendency to believe those kind of reports. Because what do they got to lose? They've been told to shut up. They've been told they didn't see what they saw. And don't ever mention it. You weren't here. You never were here. You didn't see it. It never happened. But on their deathbed is when they begin to talk. And this guy spoke about literally giant creatures, that he had been a guard down in Antarctica, and that occasionally they would see these giant creatures coming out from the tunnels and whatnot. And like you said, they had them down there in Afghanistan, and if there's one, obviously there's a lot more. Did you ever hear any more about that? Did they go in and search that tunnel that red-haired giant came out of? And he was like, 16, 17 feet tall?
From the information that I've heard, and especially on one of the Steve Quayle reports, DVDs, that was recent, that had a lot to deal with it, the information was they didn't go down in it. And what's interesting, too, you got to remember is the researcher from Russia named Moldashev, Professor Ernst Moldashev, he went down into underground, too, and saw a lot of giants that were literally in suspended animation. And so, it's not just one whistleblower or one person releasing information. This is a worldwide thing, and I would say, there's more than one.
Yeah, I think Red Elk said that there were 6 or 7 different, 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 6 or 7 at least 5, I think he said, I'm just drawing from my memory, about 5 areas underground. There are different levels, and different creatures live on those different levels. Now, you've got a deal down there, up there by the Heavner area, where animals like dogs go into these tunnels and they never come back out.
That's what the data says. People and animals have gone in under the Heavner region, and they dynamited that area to keep people from going down in there. And there was a lot of tales. Of course, nobody's interested in that. They never talk. But I did talk to a friend of mine, Derek Gilbert, the other day. Not that they're going to look at anything under Heavner, but I told him that from what I gleaned, and I'd like your opinion on this, there are a lot of locations that it seems like artifacts are found at a depth of about 2 miles in coal mines and different locations all around the world. So I'm wondering if possible, is it possible that the antediluvian world that we heard of and read about, in Genesis especially, is that where it's buried?
I think so. They found, I think that was in Chinese scientists, found an overturned part of a continent still not melted in the lava beds down below, the molten lava. I don't know if you remember that report or not. It was very, very interesting. It was a huge area that had been evidently overturned. Just sunk.
I remember that. Yeah, I remember
and
that.
Remember when the Lord said that certain countries, nations, sheep and the goats were going to be thrown into the lake of fire. Well, we don't even think about what that could mean, but we know now what it means. The lake of fire is obviously the lava down below and an overturning. So if we get into a polar shift, and you had that vision, and Red Elk talked about it, of the partial pole shift. What was that, like 10 degrees, maybe 20 degrees, you thought, from your description?
It wasn't a big shift, but it was very noticeable. And Red Elk said it was valid. And of course, I'm not asking people to believe what Red Elk said, but I do appreciate his feedback. And he even, he said that because of where I was standing a certain number of years, and he wasn't sure about the number of years before this, but he said we would have this, apparently, this what I call the white buffalo vision, that there would be a partial pole shift that would get people's attention. And he said that, like I had said, that would be a warning, but then later would come a real polar shift, and not a magnetic field, but poles itself.
Yeah. Folks, if you want to know where you can find the information biblically, just read Isaiah chapter 24, because that's talking about not only the earth wobble that we are having right now. You got to watch the sun. Sometimes it rises where it should and sets where it should. Other days it's not setting or rising anywhere near where it should. Likewise for the moon. But you have to really be alert and watch and check your times, because the government is not going to tell you anything about any of this. In fact, they're trying to hide it, because a wobble is a precursor to a real bad, even if it's a partial shift like you saw, Larry. I mean, you'd definitely feel that, and maybe that's what the Lord's going to use to break America in 2 parts, getting to the 2 parts. What's going on with Kerry finalizing all of this and the plans of the 70 nations? That's going ahead, full blast, is it not?
Oh, absolutely it is. And I saw some information on Bill Koenig's site, watch.org, this evening. And Israel and the nations that are watching Israel are very concerned about this 70 meet, and I find that odd. 70 nations, that number 70 again, are meeting January the 15th in France to make a motion on a, they're attempting to produce a Palestinian state and divide not only Jerusalem. Basically, they're trying to get Israel completely out of Jerusalem, but they're also trying to divide Israel, and that's what we're looking at. And it appears that the Obama administration is going full blast towards that.
Well, of course, if they can get the UN to approve this, they know Donald Trump can't stop it. But that if Obama does it, he's doing it in the name of the people of America, and that would coincide in with your vision, and a lot of people have had this vision of America being split in two. And speaking about America breaking up, what in the world's going on out there in California?
Well, it seems like we're having, deep magma movements all up and down the coast. I was looking today at the earthquakes, and they're mostly all in California on the coast. And Hawthorne, Nevada, they're very concerned about this Hawthorne, Nevada event of swarms that seem to indicate, and they say is very near the San Andreas, and they're very concerned about this. So we're watching this ongoing. At the same time, we're having volcanoes all over the planet blowing off, especially down in Mexico. They say the super volcano around Naples, Italy, is in the last phase before an eruption, and they are saying words like Krakatoa event type eruption possibly from that one. And, that's in the middle of Italy. I mean, we're talking about Europe. And so there's some planet changes apparently coming, and we're having earthquake booms here. I got a call from Jeff and Ina. They're hearing booms. And then, of course, the weather is just beyond weird.
Yeah, now you said offline that you got 6 inches of snow. You don't
here. We were predicted.
But you normally don't get any snow, do you? Or maybe once in a great while.
Just not like this. And we got 6 inches, and I battled it all day to keep it off the back porch where it could get out and break water for my dog. We had 6 degrees last night Fahrenheit, and it didn't get over. It was 18 was the warmest it got today, and so we're going down again to, this is phenomenal and I'm in the South. I'm not in the North. I was telling somebody the other day, they said, well, it's cold up in, Alaska. And I said, I'm not in Alaska. I'm not in Cuba, but I'm not in Alaska.
Yeah. And this thing is supposed to go all the way down into Florida. It's probably not the last one either, these polar. But, I'm wondering because this may be part of that wobble. They don't seem to be offering a whole lot of explanation as to why these polar vortexes are doing what they're doing. We've always had cold weather up here. I mean, I've had years where you could have 25, 30, 40 below zero, and you never really get used to it, but you learn to live through it. But this seems to be getting more and more frequent and more erratic. It can go from 20 below to 40 degrees and melting. So the weather really is getting strange. Go ahead.
I tell you what, Stuart, what's interesting, too, is this very strange, around the core of the planet, this molten movement that's going on like a molten atmosphere in the middle of the planet, and if that's moving, it could cause a different kind of wobble than we're used to. And at the same time, I was watching on Fox a little earlier, and they said a climatologist just quit her job with the university. She said that the climate people have all gone crazy trying to prove global warming when all over the planet almost it's getting colder and we're freezing to death all over the planet. They're very concerned about Europe right now, and it seems like the Arctic fronts, the polar vortexes, are coming south in all areas and freezing. And really, Stuart, it's freezing a lot of areas that produce food around the planet.
Yes, and that's another area that people don't seem to realize when the food, we've had how many years now in America they claim that the environment here in America is way not normal. And it's been that way for a couple hundred years, and we have huge agricultural production. But the normal climate for America is much more erratic, they claim. So, maybe that's what we're doing. Maybe we're headed back into a much more erratic and much colder climate, which would drive people south. Kind of interesting, actually.
It's very interesting, Stuart. The Obama administration has, for 8 years, promoted and passed laws and worked with the UN on this climate change theory, and at the same time have tried to say that this is caused by the use of coal or fossil fuels, and while at the same time watching CERN develop miniature black holes in the planet, and we're supposed to believe this stuff?
Yeah. Makes you wonder, doesn't it? Well, they have no choice but to lie to us about everything now. I don't, like you've said, there's no truth in them, so how can they tell the truth? They absolutely have to lie. But, there's coming a time, and by the way, speaking about lies, what's this deal with NASA? Saying publicly that there's 2 objects coming our way. Does that not sound like maybe they feel they have to say something at this point because we're going to start seeing it or whatever it is?
Well, that's some of the data that it seems to be appearing, and Skywatch TV posted some of that. The Dales have posted some of it, and the information's out there warning about, they say 2 objects, NASA's reporting 2 objects heading towards Earth, but also at the same time the Skywatch TV posted an interesting note, said evidence shows the Nibiru-Nemesis system on close approach with Earth, and of course I think they're talking about a close approach like September, October, but talking about even Nibiru's moons or planets or entourage are moving the gravitational waves toward Earth. In other words, that whole system apparently is so strong that it's actually pushing forward the gravity waves that we've talked about that have been coming across Earth. So this system, this Nemesis system or Nibiru system, is pushing or moving those waves forward towards the Earth. So this is really bizarre, Stuart. We're going to begin to see things. Whether you ever believed it was out there or not, we're going to see some things.
Well, what's interesting is that they're using the date September, October, because that's when the star sign occurs. Remember, on September 23rd.
That's right.
2017, we have the star sign, and we have the crown of 12 stars, 3 of which are planets, 9 of which are stars, and then we have the moon under her feet, and we have the sun clothing her, and we have Jupiter in the womb right now, and I think Jupiter exits the womb in early September. So when they're saying these objects are going to be here or close by in September, October, that matches Revelation.
Yeah. Wow.
Which they maybe not even know. Or maybe they know all too well. You never know what you're dealing with, who you're dealing with. What's going on in the Middle East? I know there's a lot of stuff happening.
A lot of things are occurring in the Middle East right now. Israel's concerned about what's about to happen there in the Middle East around them. There's also reports just came out. Jordan is now saying that the movement of the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem is a red line and a catastrophic troubles time that is approaching where the Arab world literally will go berserk if they try that. And then at the same time, we've got, you remember the Incirlik Air Base situation,
Yep.
That we thought had gone away? Well, now there's a report out at Debka Files says that Turkey is threatening to ground U.S. fighter jets at the NATO key Ikirluk Air Base in Turkey. So we're back at the NATO base again. Now, whether the nukes are still there, the arsenal, I don't have a clue. I can't tell you, but we're seeing some very interesting stuff, and at the same time, Israel has just shown satellite images, and they're across the internet. Yahoo.com even has them, showing that Russia has moved these Iskander-M advanced missile systems into Syria, and especially around Latakia, and these can take out ships and carrier groups. And at the same time, on top of that, something's up because Putin has just moved his fleet, including that aircraft carrier they had there in Syria, off into the Mediterranean, away from Syria. So there's a lot going on. It seems the rich men, though, and the Obama administration, and a lot of the Republicans are trying, or it appears to be trying, to start a war.
Well, John McCain said that so-called hacking, which Russia did not do, they've already proved Russia didn't have a lot to do with it. But he called it an act of war. So basically what McCain is saying is we should go to war with Russia. And so obviously Obama would love to have a war with Russia. I think they actually think they could beat Russia, but not according to prophecy. That's not going to happen. It almost sounds like more if you read Ezekiel 38:39 that the Lord himself is what beats the former Soviet Union. So, do you think Putin is going to do anything about these charges now? I mean, you had this, I don't know if it was NSA or who issued the report, the intel agencies, that now they say that Russia, they have proof Russia hacked and did this and did that. But the people that have actually read it say that's not true at all, that they don't have any evidence, whatever.
They came out with a report today. This is what's interesting, Stuart. As soon as Obama was debriefed, MSNBC was given the report before Trump ever was briefed. Is that amazing, or is that amazing?
That's total breach. Total breach.
You tell me. And from what, listening to some of, like Lou Dobbs and some of the others that really tell the truth pretty much, they are very, the insiders that are talking to them are very skeptical about what this seems to be a total political deal. This is politics. This is done by the Obama administration. And they say, from the insiders, they're talking that this was done to really attack Russia and to attack Trump's ability to be the new commander-in-chief.
Yeah, because he can't recognize a Russian hacker or something. This whole thing is ridiculous. But it does bother me that Putin is getting really cozy here because of what we know in biblical prophecy. That the former Soviet Union, which broke up, now you'll find that in Jeremiah, where it kind of broke up. What did they call that? Perestroika and glasnost. And I believe
which everybody said wasn't real.
Yeah. And probably wasn't, because I know Mikhail Gorbachev said that was window dressing. And really, if you follow when the Soviets, I call them still the Soviets, because when Russia does military drills, almost a lot, well, I can't say all of them, but a good share of them that were part of the Soviet Empire do the drills right along with them, which should raise a few eyebrows.
It's absolutely coordinated. Russia's movements are coordinated with its neighbors, and of course, we just moved. Apparently, they're reporting today a large force of tanks and armored vehicles from the U.S. has now landed in Germany, and we've also reportedly have troops massed down on the Russian border. So even though Russia's busy doing what it does best, it appears that we are also involved in probing or maybe poking the Russian bear. Obama's been poking him, for a while now. And of course, this is what's interesting, Stuart. You know, they're saying that Russia did the hack of the DNC, and I'm going to ask you this question, Stuart. All the information, and of course they say they have now tied Russia to WikiLeaks, but all the information that came out, was it Russian propaganda? The information that came out about Hillary and the DNC and all of their people and what they were doing and saying, was it propaganda, or did we see the truth?
I think we saw the truth, and I saw in a little article. I've never been able to vet it, so I wonder if it's true or not. And it may be, but it's maybe not, because I can't find it anywhere else. Where Netanyahu possibly might be releasing, so what was it, 40,000 emails that would basically cook Washington? Well, we already know that, it's just Washington is a leading pedophile ring in the globe, as far as I know.
Listen, I saw a report. I saw a report, Stuart, about 1999 or 2000 from the FBI that came out and was released, and absolutely most of the pedophile situation in America was in the upper echelons of our government. And this report was stuffed away in a corner, and all the copies that I know of were seized and gone. You can't find them today, but it revealed a lot. And what's interesting here, Stuart, is would Netanyahu have any of that information? And by the way, I think it said 400,000 of those emails.
Okay.
But I'm going to read this real quick here and get your comment. Barry Rothman did a very interesting Torah code, and people wonder if Torah codes are real. Well, they're saying Putin was involved in the hacking. And remember what just happened. They just really hit a lick at Israel big time, and they're now attacking, and we're talking politics, of course. They're attacking Russia politically. And Barry Rothman just did a Torah code, said, did Russia or Israel have the democratic information? And let me read you what came back on the matrix, which the Barry Rothman did. Number 1, the word democratic. Number 2, hack. Number 3, Putin. Number 4, Putin. Number 5, Russian. Number 6, Netanyahu. Number 7, Israel. So the Torah code seems to say that Russia and Israel have hacked the Democratic Party and gathered all of this data, which is damning data, Stuart. And even Lou Dobbs reported, he said, could it be that they were literally getting this data because they expected Hillary to win, and if she did, they could blackmail her from here to eternity, and she would have to yield the information that they wanted let out or not let out. So what's the truth?
Wow. Yeah. Well, that would be true, too. Blackmail's one of their chief things they like to do. Even in the Bible it says that they do a deep search. And they do a deep search on someone so that they can control them and blackmail them. The only defense you have against a blackmail is go ahead and release it. I don't care.
Yeah, but Hillary never would. Hillary would never admit it, much less release it.
I know. Well, she's such a sweet, gentle lady. It just defies my imagination. They could be jumping all over her.
I can't find anybody else on the planet that would fit the term Jezebel like she does.
I think you got that one right. So there's a deal here. I've been doing a little research on Donald Trump, and all I'm going to say about it is, because I'm not ready to release a whole lot of it, watch the numbers 88 and 888 and 777. It's getting very, very interesting as to who exactly Donald Trump really is And I'm not saying at all that the Lord is not using him, because I'm positive he is. And he is here as part, probably, of the delusion. And people should really keep their eye on what he does, who he surrounds himself with, and what he actually does when he gets into office. There's no question that this is coming up for Israel to return to the Sanhedrin will come up into full power, I believe. The temple will be rebuilt if they don't use the Tabernacle of David type thing, which they could actually literally, I suppose, put up, overnight if in an emergency situation. So this is going to get extremely interesting as we travel forward through this. I got a headline I want your opinion on. Extremely strange alien head and hand found in Peru. Did you see that?
I saw that, Stuart, and I sent Richard Shaw a copy too, because they dealt with the a recent hoax. And
yes.
Richard said that they wasn't able to vet this. He'd heard of it, and he said he couldn't vet it, but he thought it might possibly not be what's being presented. But, there you go again. You really don't know. But they're finding anomalies, and some of them are hoaxes, and you begin to wonder about the end time, and is some of this stuff planted too? And so you don't know,
Yeah, exactly. The only thing you really have is the Bible, which doesn't lie to anybody because it has no reason to. And, of course, the Lord is a truth teller. And you find a lot of this stuff actually in the Bible. For those people who don't like the Bible, you really should read it. It's an amazing book, and it's got a lot of stuff in here. Here's a headline: Mysterious giant coffins discovered in Egypt near Pyramid of Giza may belong to ancient Nephilim. What's the deal there?
Yeah, that's the report I talked about as we were sharing the paranormal at the beginning of the show, Stuart.
Yes.
This is some in-depth work that's going on. That this occurred in 2012. Apparently, they dug down into a chamber under Giza, found a cavern with like 24 massive, giant caskets. Reminded me of the. You remember the old sarcophagus? Or if you remember the Prometheus movie, remember those containers they would get into and sleep in those containers? They were almost like a giant computer. And we don't know what these are, and we don't know why when in 2012 when they unearthed them, why we didn't hear about it. But just now the information is coming out.
Wow. Well, remember the movie Stargate, where they bring the people back to life. What's this? I want to get back to California briefly before we run out of time. California braces for once in 10-year storm. Now, you guys just had a storm, so is this something else coming in behind what you've already had?
Yeah.
Now, you're inland a ways, of course.
Yeah, we're inland a ways, all right. But this is what's strange, and we usually get it after California does. But this, from what I gleaned from the information, and I posted it today on my blog, this appears to be a atmospheric river, an absolute river of water and moisture that is coming in out of the Pacific onto California, and they're expecting flooding, lots of floods. They're expecting avalanches. They're expecting blizzards. Depends on where you are, I guess. But this is so phenomenal. I mean, absolutely phenomenal. And I'm wondering, is it by chance all this volcanic and electromagnetic and the atmospheric troubles? Is this creating this massive river of moisture that's coming in on the coast of California? It's very, very odd.
It probably is, actually. I know the bots talked about 3, maybe 4 years ago that these atmospheric rivers would, in fact, begin to show up. Well, here they are, I guess. So, again, another hit for the bots. before we close down, what's your take on this shooting? And I'm suspicious. I'm very suspicious of the shooting down in Florida.
Yeah, the insiders that's listening to this are very skeptical about what's occurred. Number one, they're wondering how in the world this gun got onto an airplane in Anchorage, Alaska. They're wondering about this guy that has a Alaskan Army Reserve ID card, and how he got on that plane with that gun. And then also, too, he's reporting, from what I heard, that he was made to do this, and reporting also some mind control. Something is causing him to do this, and he tries to connect it to ISIS, and so we've got a real anomaly. Listen, Stuart, this is a weird deal, and it makes you wonder about the old term false flags. We're in a very dangerous time between now and January the 20th. There could be more than one false flag occur to possibly dethrone Trump before we get there.
Yeah, I'm wondering, because they said, here's an update. It says Air Canada now says no passenger by gunman's name on any of their flights. So this has got to be a plant. Because if he wasn't on the flight, how could he have had the gun? He said they put it in his baggage. Well, now the story's changing. It was like Oklahoma City. Yeah, they keep moving it around. I guess maybe people begin to wonder exactly what's going on. But I wanted to touch on that because, and I was watching the so-called wounded people being carried off. I didn't see any blood anywhere. Not anywhere. A lot of what we were hearing, the descriptions of, we didn't see. You've got to wonder. Now, the massive transportation problem this probably caused, well, the loss of monetary funds and airlines and all of this is going to be incredible. But something is occurring, and we are seeing unprecedented lawlessness in this nation right now, and I'm afraid it's going to increase. Now, let me drop this real quick here. It's a note because we're keeping an eye on it in the Middle East. It says Putin has moved his warships away from the Syrian coast, and also there's a report says Putin is moving the Syrian rebel forces from central Syria south to the borders of Israel and Jordan. Now, this is very odd movement. Something's up. Maybe this has something to do with the temple. This would cause a war, and this is probably what they want, Larry. If they can get a war with the Arabs. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, they're pushing for this Middle East war. We know that. This has been set up for some time now. How far it'll go, we don't know, but I wanted to insert that because over the weekend, people can keep a watch in that region and see what's beginning to happen or accelerating.
Well, when you got an orchestrated deal, and I'm a firm believer in scripts, even if it's global scripts. You've heard of the Armageddon script, and that appears to be actually starting to play out now. You got North Korea. Go ahead.
Yeah, and they're supposed to, and North Korea is supposed to fire a ballistic, intercontinental ballistic missile this weekend, possibly.
That's all we need. A few more little things like that, and we're on our way. How do people reach you, Larry?
The quickest way is my blog, LarryWTaylor.org. That's LarryWTaylor.org.
Okay, another lie for you folks out there. A record 95 million Americans are not in the labor force. However, the unemployment rate's only 4.7%. I don't know exactly how they compute that. But anyway, just something for you to think about, folks, as you're out there. And anyway, heads up. We are, as Larry said, really in the middle of bad things starting to come. So anyway, thanks everybody for listening, and do visit Larry's site. He keeps everybody up to date really well. And we'll see you then later on, and thanks for listening. Good night, all.